car snakes through the isolated British countryside, carrying an American woman named Greta Evans, who is desperately fleeing a dark, abusive past. She arrives at a colossal, Gothic estate, where she has been hired as a live-in nanny. While exploring the silent, towering corridors, she meets Malcolm, the local grocery delivery boy. When Greta asks about the child she is meant to care for, Malcolm hesitates, clearly uncomfortable, and admits he doesn't know how to explain it. The unsettling mystery deepens when the elderly homeowners, Mr. and Mrs. Heelshire, finally introduce Greta to their son, Brahms. Greta instantly bursts out laughing, assuming it's an elaborate joke. The parents' deadpan, grieving expressions instantly freeze the laughter in Greta's throat. This is no prank. Malcolm plays along seamlessly, interacting with the doll as if it were a real breathing boy. Mrs. Heelshire aggressively guides Greta through a strict, mandatory daily routine. Brahms must be woken up at exactly 7 a.m., changed into clean clothes, read poetry, and have his music played loudly through the mansion's speakers. Leftover food must never be wasted, but saved in the freezer for emergencies. Mr. Heelshire then takes Greta outside to check rodent traps, casually mentioning that every single window in the massive mansion has been permanently sealed shut. He insists that no matter how bizarre it looks, their son's living spirit resides within that porcelain frame. That night, Greta uses the mansion's landline to call her sister, Sandy, realizing the remote estate has absolutely no Wi-Fi or cellular signal. Sandy delivers a terrifying update. Greta's violent ex-boyfriend, Cole, has been frantically hunting for her, even showing up at Sandy's house and terrorizing her child. Sandy promises to keep Greta's location a total secret, desperate to protect her sister from further trauma. The next morning, the Heelshires prepare to leave for a long-awaited holiday. Before stepping into the car, Mr. Heelshire delivers a cryptic, chilling warning, telling Greta to be good to his boy, because then he will be good to her in return. But if she is bad to him, the consequences will be severe. Mrs. Heelshire suddenly wraps Greta in a tight embrace, whispering a tearful, desperate apology directly into her ear before the couple drives away. Left completely alone, Greta immediately rejects the bizarre rules. Finding the doll deeply creepy, she smothers it under a blanket on a random chair and spends her days drinking wine and reading magazines. But the house quickly pushes back. Greta wakes up in the middle of the night to find the blanket meticulously removed from the doll. Deeply unnerved, she carelessly throws Brahms onto a rocking chair in his room and bolts to bed. Terrifying nightmares plague her sleep, culminating in a vision of the family portrait coming alive as a phantom hand chokes her. She wakes up gasping and rushes to check on Brahms. She notices liquid pooling under his porcelain eyes, but quickly realizes it's just water from a ceiling leak. Relieved, she moves him to the bed and attempts to open a locked attic door with a fire poker, but fails. Next day, Malcolm arrives with groceries. He takes Greta to a small hidden grave on the property, revealing a tragic reality. The real Brahms perished in a horrific house fire on his 8th birthday, exactly 20 years ago. The porcelain doll mysteriously appeared the very next day. Greta calculates the horror, realizing the grieving parents have been living this lie for 2 decades. Sensing her intense isolation, Malcolm invites her out for a night on the town, clarifying it isn't a date. Unbeknownst to them, every single conversation in the mansion is being listened to through the hollow walls. As Greta prepares for her night out, the atmosphere turns predatory. While she is in the shower, an unseen presence steals her dress, her jewelry, and cuts a physical chunk of hair from her head. She emerges to find every drawer thrown open and all her clothes missing. Terrified, she spots the attic door swinging wide open with the stairs pulled down. Believing an intruder is inside, she arms herself with a fire poker and climbs into the dark space. Suddenly, the hatch slams shut, trapping her. She screams through the window to Malcolm as he arrives, but he cannot hear her and leaves. A terrifying human shadow manifests in the darkness, causing Greta to trip, strike her head, and black out. She wakes up the next morning still trapped in the dusty attic. The terrifying shadow was merely clothes on a hanger, but beside them, she finds an old childhood photo album of the real Brahms. In the original snapshots, the boy looks intensely brooding and cold compared to his idealized portrait. Suddenly, the attic door clicks and swings open completely on its own. Returning to her bedroom, she finds all her stolen clothes neatly pressed and hanging across the furniture. Malcolm returns to check on her, finding no physical signs of a break-in. To ease her mind, he stays to play pool. Greta pushes him for the unfiltered truth about the dead boy. Malcolm admits that local pub talk paints the real Brahms as deeply strange and dangerous. He recalls a chilling delivery encounter where he found Mr. Heelshire heavily drinking, weeping that he couldn't do it anymore, warning Malcolm that the boy was incredibly odd. Miles away, the elderly Heelshires stand on a desolate coastline. They write a final, heartbreaking goodbye letter to Brahms, fill their coat pockets with heavy rocks, and purposefully march into the freezing ocean waves, ending their lives. Back at the estate, the supernatural occurrences escalate. Greta discovers her missing shoes neatly placed outside her door. She enters Brahms's room to find the doll sitting upright on the edge of the bed, the list of rules resting beside it. Terrified, she locks herself in her room. The landline rings, and a whispering child's voice speaks through the receiver, demanding to know why she isn't following the rules. Knocking echoes against her door, and the child's voice promises a gift. Greta opens it to find a tray with her favorite peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Seeing this, Greta's perspective completely shifts. She believes the spirit of the child is truly there, merely begging for love and structure. When Malcolm calls to check on her, she abruptly hangs up, completely obsessed with caring for the doll. Greta begins following the strict rules to a flawless certainty, completely cutting herself off from the outside world. Worried, Malcolm forces his way into the mansion. Greta desperately tries to prove the supernatural reality to him. She places Brahms in a chalk outline on the floor and steps out of the room. When they return, the doll has moved entirely on its own. Malcolm is absolutely stunned. Greta confesses why this doll means so much to her. Her abusive ex Cole beat her so severely that she tragically lost her pregnancy. Caring for Brahms is healing her maternal void. Touched by her vulnerability, Malcolm kisses her. Later that night, as Malcolm and Greta begin making out in her bedroom, a shadowy figure watches them through the keyhole. Suddenly, loud sound shatters the silence. They rush down to find Brahms sitting next to a blasting record player. Greta calmly returns the doll to bed, but Malcolm begs her to leave, revealing a horrific town secret. 20 years ago, a young neighborhood girl named Emily Krebs came to play with Brahms. That very day, her brutally murdered body was found in the woods, right before the Heelshire house mysteriously caught fire. The killer was never found. Greta still refuses to leave, checking on the doll and giving it a goodnight kiss. The next day, Greta discovers her abusive ex, Cole, has tracked her location and broken into the mansion. He demands she pack her bags and return to America. Malcolm arrives, using the guise of a grocery delivery to pull Greta aside, whispering that he will wait in his car outside with a weapon to protect her. That night, Cole aggressively pressures Greta to leave, but she evades him, retreating to Brahms's room. She looks at the porcelain face and whispers that she needs help. Hours later, cold water drips onto Cole's face, waking him up. He opens his luggage to find a swarm of live rats inside, with the words "Get out" smeared in red across the wall. The porcelain doll sits nearby, staring at him. Infuriated, Cole screams, accusing Greta of playing mind games. He rips the doll from her arms, shaking it violently. Cole raises the doll high and smashes it over a chair, shattering the porcelain face into pieces. Instantly, a low, guttural growl echoes from inside the structure of the mansion. The massive mirror over the fireplace shatters. A fully grown man wearing a porcelain mask erupts from the wall. The real Brahms is alive. He never died in the fire. He has been living inside the walls of the mansion for 20 years. Brahms lunges at Cole, overpowering him and brutally murdered him. Turning his masked face toward Greta, he speaks in the exact same childlike whimpering voice from the telephone, demanding her. Malcolm charges in, striking Brahms from behind, giving Greta the chance to run. They sprint through the shifting labyrinthine corridors, but Brahms utilizes the secret passages inside the walls, easily cutting off their escape routes. Diving through a hidden panel, Greta and Malcolm stumble directly into Brahms's horrific living quarters. The walls are lined with peepholes spying on every room. Greta finds a mannequin wearing her dress and jewelry with the actual chunk of her hair. She also finds the suicide note from his parents, which reads, "We leave you the nanny. She is yours now." They were offering her up as a human sacrifice to appease their monster. Brahms ambushes them in the tight tunnels, brutally knocking Malcolm unconscious. Greta manages to squeeze through an exit hatch, sprinting across the dark grounds toward the main gates, but as freedom stares her in the face, she hears Malcolm scream. She realizes she cannot abandon him to a monster. Arming herself with a heavy screwdriver from a tool shed, she slips back into the house. She calls out to Brahms, entirely shifting her tone. Using her authoritative, stern nanny voice, she commands him to step back and go to bed. The bizarre, childlike man is instantly conditioned by the psychological authority and obeys, retreating to his bed. Greta tucks him under the sheets. Before she can pull away, the masked man grabs her arm tightly, demanding his mandatory goodnight kiss. Realizing it's her only window of survival, Greta leans down. The moment his cold porcelain mask presses against her lips, she drives the heavy screwdriver deep into his chest. Brahms roars in shock, violently hurling her against the wall and throttling her neck, choking the life out of her. With her final ounce of strength, Greta grips the handle and twists the screwdriver deeper into his torso. Brahms collapses to the floor, gasping in agony, as a large piece of his mask breaks away, exposing the heavily scarred human face beneath. Greta scrambles to her feet, rescues a bleeding Malcolm, and drags him into the delivery car. They floor the accelerator, breaking through the main gates and escaping into the morning sun, finally free of the nightmare. The story concludes with a chilling, silent shot inside the abandoned estate. A pair of scarred, cloaked hands meticulously pieces the broken shards of the porcelain doll back together. Brahms survived, and the game is far from over. The movie ends here. If you like the recap, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon.